Welcome back to Northwest City Politics in the Know with Juanita. We're glad that you're joining our show again this evening. We're always glad for people like you that are interested in what's happening in the cities in Northwest Community Television's viewing area. It is important for good government that cities, councils, city staff, and city residents have a back and forth flow of information. So we'll encourage you, if you have an area that we cover in one of our shows and it resonates with you, it's something that really interests you, do take the time to contact your mayors or your city council people and let them know how you feel about different issues, because it is important. Now, if you haven't watched our show before, each week we'll have somebody on from one of the 9 cities in our viewing area. And it's generally a mayor or a city council person who will be able to update us on what's happening in that city and what's going to be happening, so you'll be prepared for the future. And from time to time, we'll have different groups that interact with all of our cities. Now tonight, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We've had several people that have been talking with us about the issue of affordable housing. So we're going to hear from several people in our cities over the next couple of shows. The Metropolitan Council is responsible for dealing with the issue of affordable housing, and they have formulas and figures that they use, and they've, over the last year, they've put forward a number of amounts of affordable housing that they think different cities should add in the next 10 to 15 years. However, there is some controversy over that. Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, and Richfield all have a lawsuit going because they're saying that the formulas that they're using are putting more affordable housing in cities that already have it. So they're concerned about the process and how it goes. And each of our cities is handled differently. But tonight we'll go over, and the next night we'll go over a number of different cities and their thoughts on it. If it's an issue that interests you, do take the time to be in contact with your city. So we'll start with the mayors. Now, I'm asking all of the people that we have on, because I saw an article where the Metropolitan Council is encouraging affordable housing through their processes. And I know Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center and Richfield are saying, wait a minute, we're not quite sure we want to go the way you want to go. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
And we went more than just, we filed a complaint with the federal government, with the HUD department, because the policies of Met Council have led to a concentration of poverty, and it's clear as bell. You can look on a map and see the concentration of diversity and poverty, which also goes back into how bad Minnesota does on these gaps. Everybody knows that when you concentrate poverty, that is the worst possible method to fight it. You need to separate it out. And we're saying, wait a minute, because Brooklyn Park, who has 2/3 of our city is affordable, is being told that we have to build 1,500
a huge
units.
Number.
And I'm here to tell you that we're not going to do that, because there's a certain point at which a city cannot have preponderance of so many affordable units. Because affordable units, we love the people here. There is a cost to maintenance and all the other things that goes into it, because people think you build it. No one ever comes back later and talks about you have to maintain that. And so we've said there are cities that have very little affordable housing.
There are.
It's time for them to step it up and spread it out.
And so the 3 cities issue is going through the HUD process now,
so
or what's happening with that?
Thankfully I'm not a lawyer, so I don't have to understand everything. But basically what we've done is we've said that the plan as they've submitted is flawed. It leads to concentration of poverty and racial segregation, which falls underneath the federal government. And so the HUD, who provides all the money to the Met Council for affordable housing, has a say in this. And in other communities, they've made them go back and redo it. In Dallas, I think it was one, if I've got the right, Texas city. There's been a few other cities, I think Newark, New Jersey, where they've said your plan is not workable, because their plan basically keeps concentrating the poverty in the same areas. It's just a fact it does.
Well, how should they go about setting up the things for affordable
Well,
housing?
I think A is stop, because they tend to, it's easier to put affordable housing in an area that has affordable housing.
Yeah, you don't get as much.
You don't get as much pushback. People
right.
people are more, hey, that's my price bracket.
Right.
You tend to get a lot of feedback and pushback from communities that have none.
Right.
I think it was Carver or something that has none.
Uh-huh.
They wanted to put 42 units in, and they filled the gymnasium. I was thinking 42 units, and the mayor down there, I think, owns a Starbucks, and he said, my workers can't afford to live here.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
And you need balance, and so we're saying you need to spread it out.
Yeah.
Everybody knows concentrating poverty leads to failure. And if you talk about our gaps, employment, opportunity, education, home ownership gaps, where Minnesota ranks 48th and 49th, it's no wonder. Because we concentrate poverty. We do the absolute worst possible method of fighting poverty.
So it's a process to keep following, right?
Yes, we are very intentful. Like I said, we're not going to follow their requirements for affordable housing because we believe that is not the right way to do it. It's time for other communities to step it up. And we're going to fight it.
That's what I thought would be an interesting thing to let's talk with each of our cities about it. But
everybody has a different take. Everybody, no one wants anybody to tell them what to do.
Right.
But we're saying we've got.
Yeah.
And
you've got enough.
Yeah. We're doing our share.
Now, I'm asking everybody, because I had run across an article and was following a little bit. The Metropolitan Council is setting targets for cities for affordable housing. And some of our cities, like Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, and Richfield, have been kind of protesting what they've been said. Do you know, or do you have any figures for what the target is for Golden Valley?
I do. It's all in draft form at this point.
Yeah, because they're in the process of doing this, right.
Exactly. And the goal that the Metropolitan Council has set for Golden Valley by the year 2030 is 150 new housing units. Now that could be apartment, it could be townhouse, it could be whatever. And so that's the figure that we're looking at. And citizens and the city and the council have the ability to comment between now and May 15th of this year about the reasonableness of this expectation.
Right.
And it is only an expectation on the part of the Met Council. They use the carrots that they have, which may come in the form of community development grants or something to that effect. But they really don't have any whips, if you will.
Yeah, true.
It's the carrot or the stick, and they don't have much of a stick. So we're going to be taking a look at this topic as a city council in the future, sometime after May 15th. And looking at how we might proceed going forward. We already have a significant amount of affordable housing in our community.
And that has to be taken into consideration, too.
Exactly. And in downtown Golden Valley, northwestern Golden Valley, and elsewhere, we have a lot of affordable housing that meets the Met Council's expectations. And the property that I was just mentioning, actually the two properties, Central Park West and the Liberty Crossing, both will have affordable housing requirements as part of their build-out. And so we're looking to have dispersed housing for folks from all walks of life in our community.
Now, a whole different topic. The Metropolitan Council is putting plans in place for Thrive. I can't remember if it was 2030 or 2040. But anyway, plans for the future.
Yeah.
And part of that planning process is in terms of how much affordable housing different cities should have. Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, Coon Rapids have some serious concerns about the process and are protesting it. So I thought I'll have all of our cities talk a little bit about what this is. First of all, do you know what the target is for New Hope for affordable housing?
Yes. First of all, we support that protest.
Okay.
They are saying that we should have 111 new affordable housing units in New Hope. And approximately 8,200 of the city's 9,000 housing units are considered affordable.
Right,
That's
right.
91% of our housing stock. For them to say we need 111 more is short-sighted. And really, I mean, they have a great idea. They have a great thought plan. However, what they're not taking into account is what's already here. And we have offered a similar petition to the Met Council as to the protest. And our position is that we have our fair share, if not more, currently of affordable housing.
Right.
So it's that's an area of concern for us. We like our mix, and we think that we've met the of what the desire of the council is.
So what kind of factors do you think are important in the consideration of this kind of issue?
Ask me that again, please.
Okay, what factors go into how many affordable housing any given city should have to have?
Availability of land,
Okay,
and how that land is marketed, the amount of homes that are what they believe to be considered affordable. So those are just three of the different
Right.
factors that come into play. And as we keep in mind, we're not building.
No.
I mean, we'll be building with Centra,
right.
but we're not Plymouth. We're
Right.
not.
No. We
you
don't
know,
have open space
exactly,
in there, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So that's something that I don't think they've truly taken into account.
So is there any give and take on this process yet that you've heard of?
We hope so.
Okay.
Yeah, we do, and I think there will be. Enough of the cities are protesting it, challenging it, and raising real concerns that I don't believe this issue's over.
We'll tune into it later on.
Yes, and it probably won't be done quickly.
Right? Probably not.
Yeah.
And I wanted to touch a little bit on the fact that the Metropolitan Council has been setting some targets for affordable housing throughout the whole area. There's been a little controversy on it from Brooklyn Park and Coon Rapids. I can't remember.
There's
somebody
a
else.
third one at
There's a
least,
third
yeah.
one that I don't remember now. But what can you tell us about affordable housing in Robbinsdale?
Well, you know, it's an issue for us as well. By the definition of affordable
Okay.
housing, most of the housing in Robbinsdale is deemed affordable.
Right,
So
right.
you know, we've got plenty.
Right.
I was not able to secure the exact number assigned to us by Met Council,
Right.
and in a lot of ways it doesn't matter because we
Yeah.
far exceed it.
Right. Yeah, because your city is kind of at a different stage with that whole process than
Right.
those other cities are.
And the other big impact is we're 100% built out.
Right.
I mean, it's not like we have tracts of land where we can have these new subdivisions that are dedicated toward
Right,
these
right.
Met Council obligations. That being said, we have made some efforts to provide affordable
Okay.
housing. Most recently, Claire Housing, which is the new development on 36th and France.
Okay.
There's been a vacant lot there for years, very close to the Terrace Theater.
Oh, right, right.
That's being constructed right now, and that's a facility that's going to support folks that are that are, I don't want to say homeless, but they need a lot of support because they're
right.
HIV positive,
Right, right.
and so they have they approached us about this piece
Right.
of land, and we worked with them to help this happen. We had the groundbreaking this winter, and it's very exciting. It's going to beautify that corner.
Right.
And it's funny, you know, all these things we're talking about, a lot of them are supported by the possibility and prospect of light rail transportation.
Right, right.
Which is one of the
Yeah, it
reasons
ties back around.
it's all connected.
Right, We also have time to get a few little interesting facts about our cities, things that happened in the early history of our cities or things that people don't know. So we'll share some of that with you tonight too. And I asked you to think a little bit about, because I'm asking people from all the cities, if you can tell us a little bit about Robbinsdale when it first got started to be a city. How long has Robbinsdale been a city?
Well, you know, I know it's over 100 years,
Okay.
but when I saw you wanted me to talk about that a little bit, I had to do a little homework. I have to admit, I don't have all of this to memory, and I'll refer to my notes a lot tonight. But we have been a city since, or for 122 years.
Oh, wow.
And it's, you know, Robbinsdale started as a, just a rural area that, outside of Minneapolis.
Right.
And here I had all these in order. There we go.
There they go.
And the first settlers in the area really filed for their land with the state in 1852.
Oh, wow.
And, you know,
That goes back a long ways.
That's a while
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
And in 1860, a caucus was held that organized the township of Crystal Lake.
Okay.
And through a lot of different things over the years and a lot of different people coming through, eventually Mr. Robbins came through and really liked the area and became heavily involved in securing the land that became Robbinsdale. And a special election was held actually on March 23rd, 1893.
Oh.
And there was a vote to dissolve the village of Crystal.
Okay.
And it carried unanimously, and on April 19th, 1893, the village of Robbinsdale was organized. And it still encompasses the same 2.9 acres it had
When it
at
started,
that time,
right.
with one exception near France Avenue on the Brooklyn Center border. But other than that, it stayed the same for all those years.
And you've watched a lot of it change, right?
Well, I've only watched the last 35 or so years.
Yeah, but that's quite a few
I don't go back
years.
quite that far.
No. But you have a good long look at your community.
Yes, and you know the Cable Commission is doing a history piece on all of our communities, and as those come out, they're really fun to not just learn about Robbinsdale,
right.
but all the different communities in the area that make up our Cable Commission group of 9 cities, and it's there's a very deep history in this region, and it's wonderful that it's being documented.
Oh yeah, it's very important.
It is.
Now Robbinsdale has had a historical society, but not all of our cities do.
Yeah, I can't really speak to all of the cities. I know
Right.
some of them do, and the ones that I don't know that they do are probably the ones you're referring to that
Right,
don't.
right.
But I think it's important for the young people that live in a community
Oh, yes.
to know how we got here.
Right.
And how much work it was to get it to where it is, and just like, I also serve on the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon committee for the 4 cities of Robbinsdale, Golden Valley, Crystal, and New Hope, working together, became certified by the military to help with the needs of the military veterans and deployed service folks and their families.
Oh, right,
And
right.
one of the things we're working on is an education piece for the schools, where we can have people that served in Vietnam come and talk to the students about their experience, and not so much the negative experiences, just the overall experience of being at war and some of the positive things that maybe happened to them along the way as well.
Right. And then I asked you to think a little bit about the early history of Golden Valley, because I'm doing that with everybody that's on the show, so we can kind of do a compilation of it later on.
Yep.
So what can you tell us about the early beginnings of Golden Valley?
The very beginning was in December of 1886.
Wow.
And it was established as a village. And that then indicates, of course, that in 2011 we celebrated our 125th anniversary, which was quite the event.
Right.
And it was interesting as I researched this to realize that between 1910 and 1940, the city grew from an astonishing 692 people to a whopping 2040. It was only after World War II and the booming economy that followed that Golden Valley started to grow in earnest. And it wasn't until 1972, however, that it actually was designated as a city. Up until that time, it was a village. And so that is the thumbnail sketch of the history of the town. It was interesting to do some background research on how the city came to have its name.
Oh, yes.
And there are a number of stories that are out there. The most plausible has to do with the early pioneers that settled in the area, and they turned the prairie into grain fields.
Oh, sure.
And there was a gentleman who owned property where the Golden Valley Golf Course now is located. It was the highest point at that point in time, and he was rumored to have looked out across his fields and commented that he was in his Golden Valley. So that seems to be the story that brought us our name.
In the early 1900s, New Hope was the area, which is now known as New Hope, was a large farming area, as was most of our areas. In 1936, there was a township called Crystal Lake. And in 1936, they wanted to become an actual incorporated city. And there were a number of people, a number of the farmers that did not want to do that. So they basically seceded from the township of Crystal Lake. Those farmers at the time went off and became their own township. And they called it the Township of New Hope. And it was a new hope away from what they had with the city of Crystal. In the early 1950s, they ended up with the same fate that the township of Crystal or the city of Crystal did, and they went to become an incorporated city.
Now, New Hope's boundaries got determined by farmers, right?
Correct.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit of how that process worked on all the different sides of the city.
You bet. There were certain farmers that had plots of land that did not want to come over to the New Hope. And so they seceded, they stayed with the city of Crystal. Our boundaries on the north side is 62nd Avenue North. Our south boundary is Medicine Lake Road, and our west boundary is what used to be County Road 18, I'm dating myself, which is now Highway 169. The east boundary is where it gets very jagged. Some places it's Louisiana Avenue, which is really our furthest boundary out, but in some areas it's Winnetka.
Yeah, it kind of goes zigzag all over.
It does, and so that's why it is so convoluted.
Because different farmers decided to be.
Yes.
Some wanted to be in Crystal, and some wanted to be in the township. Right?
Absolutely.
And then I asked you to think about something about with the early history of Crystal, because we're kind of touching on all the cities. Go back to its beginning, and what can you tell us something about that happened then?
Oh, geez. Crystal was a lot bigger than it is now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Crystal encompassed an area, Robbinsdale, New Hope, and even part of the western side of Minneapolis. Minneapolis was annexing parts of Crystal, and Crystal at the time wasn't a city, it was a village, and they were losing land to Minneapolis, so they got reorganized, and that's when some of the villages started popping up. Robbinsdale broke off first, and then it was the New Hope and Crystal area as Crystal Village, and then that broke off later in ultimately, we became a city. It's really not that long ago. 1960 is when we incorporated as a city from a village. So So our history as a city is not long, but the area definitely.
Definitely. Because it was all a rural area. If we go back to earlier times when Minneapolis was reaching out, to increase themselves.
Well, even when we became a city, the mayor at the time had a farm, and that's why when you look at the borders between New Hope and Crystal, it's really jagged. There's a part of Crystal that goes all the way over to Boone. It's around 32nd to 34th. Well, the mayor lived on the corner of Winnetka and 34th, and his farm extended all the way over there. And that's why we have that piece of property that
I didn't know that.
looks and feels so much like New Hope because it's really kind of carved right inside of it. So.
Yeah, that border kind of jigs and jags with which farmers wanted to be with which city, right?
And the mayor wanted to stay in Crystal, so.
If you're mayor, right?
That's what you had to do,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen it change probably as much as anybody else in our whole area.
Yeah,
we've
gone from what would be a farming community to a suburban, to almost an urban type of center.
Right. And then I had asked you, because I'm asking everybody to get a little touch of early history. How old is Maple Grove?
Well, the city is actually about 40 years old. Maybe a little bit older, 45 years old. Obviously, it goes back in history a lot longer than that. Pierre Bottineau was in theory, our first resident out in this way, and we have preserved his old house out at the Elm Creek Park Reserve. But certainly, we as a city have been around for in that 40, 45 year range, and have been growing ever since, you could say.
So it started from a farming group from a group of rural farming people?
Yes, Maple Grove historically has been a farming community.
Okay.
And you go back over time, that's where they were really a township that existed outside of Osseo. Osseo was the big metropolis out this way for years and years, and Maple Grove was just sort of a township or a group of farms that were located out sort of south and west of Osseo.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of changes in all of our cities, some of them going back farther and some of them more current.
Yeah, the real big significant growth in Maple Grove way back when was really sort of as a lake cabin community around Eagle Lake.
Okay.
And that really goes back into the early 1900s.
Sure. We're glad that you've joined us for our show this evening. I hope that you've heard something about the issue of affordable housing that adds to your knowledge, or something that you have questions about. Now, the best places to get information would be going to your city staff. They can give information for you. Calling your mayors or council people to see what your city is doing in this particular area. You can also contact the Metropolitan Council, because there are people that represent different areas, and you can find the ones that represent our area and get information, because it is an important issue for the future. So we're glad that you've been with us, and we hope you'll come back and join us again next week for part 2 on affordable housing from City Council and mayors in our area. Bye. Hi. I'm Juanita Hoff from Northwest City Politics. We have big news to share with you. We are improving our show by moving our program to high definition. Starting in November of 2015, you can view our show in HD on Channel 19 at 8:30 p.m. on Wednesdays. Our show times are also listed in the cable guide for DVR recording.